Ukinitukawix, Nidanakuasapita, Nokto tu Amo Sixika. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kelly Goodeagle. I come from the Siksika or the Blackfoot Nation. What I'll be doing today is just a small prayer to start everything off with your program. So I'll commit now. Hayunapi natus. Hukimachapetu piap tagaran swas pumukinan. O kispomusanum nukowa. Spomusuksia bukek suksit nestis to me. Tagaran so some kuchasau sagapi. O kinapi natus tagaran so uxikol caps some bukinan. Tagaran so na nipitam spumukina. O kinapi natus tagaran so spomusuksia matapix uxipukek uxinestis to mix. Tagaran so some kuchpinan sagapi. Hayunapi natus. Tagaran so some kuchasau sagapi uxian. Matapix, Ugripokeks, Hannae, Nistwanokasapita, Hannae.
Thank you, Elder, for that. As I mentioned, we have an action-packed day for you today, and I'll be honest, this is my first time on this side of the camera, so I'm a bit nervous, and that's why I'm really glad that as much as I'd love to have everybody in this audience here with me today, there's actually nobody here. So bear with us, have some fun, be nice to me on social out there. To kick things off today, ladies and gentlemen, what I'd like to do is introduce the Premier of Alberta, Mr. Jason Kenney.
Thank you to everyone at Calgary Economic Development and the broader Calgary business community for your amazing Alberta resilience over the past tough year. I know that a year ago, a lot of us felt like we were looking into the abyss with the collapse of energy prices, the global COVID recession, but we have gotten through this with great strength, thanks to the innovation, the resilience of the business community generally, drawing on that Alberta entrepreneurial culture, but much of it being fueled by new investments coming to Calgary in industries like tech innovation in the digital sector. Some of that fueled by the doubling of venture capital investments across the province, much of that in Calgary last year. Did you know that Alberta led the country in population growth in 2020, and we had the highest year in history for new business incorporations during a huge recession? Nothing could speak more powerfully to the entrepreneurial culture of this province.
Thank you, Premier. Absolutely couldn't agree. 2021 is going to be a fantastic year. I'd like to call on our next speaker, a very good friend of ours at Calgary Economic Development, one of our great Team Calgary partners, one of our longest standing partnerships that we have. Ladies and gentlemen, Ed Sims, President and CEO of Westjet.
1 in 10 Canadian jobs is tied to tourism, and the struggles faced without it have a ripple impact across the country, the provinces, and the cities. We intend to help lead our economic recovery. Already, we have 1,300 Westjetters who have volunteered to assist with the vaccine rollout, and many jurisdictions have already taken us up on the offer of willing and able Westjetters. We just recently announced our return to those destinations in Atlantic Canada whose service had to be cut, and we have introduced 11 new routes in Western Canada to provide non-stop service to many communities who could use the boost. All of this is being done with safety above all in mind. Every step of the journey has been systematically and methodically planned out to ensure the travel journey remains as safe and hygienic as possible. We intend to once again be providing you the most Westjet service, domestically and internationally, from YYC to connect you to the markets, the communities, and the people that are critical to a healthy economy and a healthy state of mind. One of the major reasons that companies relocate or invest in a market is air access, and we will continue to build that competitive advantage as a global hub carrier for Calgary.
Thank you, Ed, and we couldn't agree more. Bringing the world to Calgary and Calgary to the world is really what we're about. And our next guest speaker epitomizes that. Mary Moran, Chief Executive and President of Calgary Economic Development, will be up shortly to talk to you about some of the things that happened in 2020 and a bit of a vision as to what's happening in 2021.
It's good to be here with all of you again, even if it is virtually. And on behalf of all the boards of Calgary Economic Development, the Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund, the Calgary Film Centre, and their respective chairs, Joe Lougheed, Mark Blackwell, Patty McLeod, welcome to our annual report to the community. We are so fortunate to have such a committed, talented Calgary volunteers on our boards, and they were especially important over this last year as we navigated the unfathomable volatility of this pandemic. Mayor Nenshi will speak to us later in this program, and I must tell you that I'm personally quite sad that this will be the mayor's last major event with Calgary Economic Development. It has been a remarkable 10.5 years, and I will personally miss the action-packed trips we had across Canada and around the world selling Calgary to people and companies. Now, at this time last year, we were about to host Report to the Community and tell you about the record results we had at Calgary Economic Development in 2019. 87 companies and 11,000 jobs attracted and retained, and 13 trade deals that we secured through our Trade Accelerator program. I was going to tell you that 2020 was shaping up to be a defining year in our economic history here in Calgary. Then COVID brought our plans to an abrupt halt. A year later, we've all become accustomed to wearing masks, working from home, and of course the numerous Zoom calls. And we all remain incredibly grateful to our healthcare workers and the frontline workers. They are truly the real heroes of this pandemic. As a city, we face the harsh new reality: low oil prices, a plunge in foreign direct investment, the biggest drop in GDP in the country, local business struggling to survive, and an unemployment rate that doubled within 6 months. Yes, those statistics are certainly discouraging, but what they don't show is the compassion and resilience and determination of Calgarians. At Calgary Economic Development, we immediately implemented a 3-stage plan to support our local businesses: respond, rebuild, and recover. And every single day presented new challenges and forced us to adapt. In addition to supporting the local companies, we hit the pavement virtually and developed an impressive pipeline of companies that would benefit greatly from being here in Calgary. And as investment dollars started to flow again, later in 2020, our legwork started to pay dividends. Even with all the forces against us, we still attracted and retained 54 companies and secured 5,500 jobs for Calgarians. And it was encouraging that 77% of the people who worked with us last year said that we are creating a positive change in our city. Our Trade Accelerator program went online and it supported local companies, and we secured 16 trade deals in 2020, a record for us. And our 3-year relationship with Startup Calgary concluded in 2020 when we moved it to the recently formed Platform Calgary. We are confident this move to Platform will better serve entrepreneurs, all types of entrepreneurs in our city, and help us achieve our collective goal of creating 1,000 startups within 10 years. Now, as difficult as 2020 was, it was also a year of people coming together to focus on our collective challenges. And one example of working together is the growing number of businesses, government, and community leaders embracing the vision of our economic strategy, Calgary in the New Economy. Calgary in the New Economy was created by our community for our community, and it is the right strategy for these times. Calgarians are undeniably problem solvers. And as the strategy says, smart people in the city are applying innovation and advanced technologies to solve some of the world's biggest problems: cleaner energy, safer and secure food, improved transportation of people and goods, and better health solutions. And many of these solutions were accelerated during COVID as companies and industries had to embrace digital technologies and transformation. We just released our new digital spending forecast that showed Calgary companies will lead the $20 billion of investment in digital technologies across all of the sectors in Alberta by 2024. Now, one of the best tools that we have to drive that momentum is the Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund, and it's having an impact. The projects that we supported in 2020 were significant. They included the SAIT Digital Tech Hub in downtown Calgary, to Alta ML, to Harvest Builders, to LodgeLink, creating 600 jobs here in Calgary, which are all part of our digital and tech talent journey. Our Live Tech, Love Life marketing campaigns won many international awards in 2020 and established Calgary as Canada's most adventurous tech city. It is an exciting time to be in Calgary. In fact, it feels like it's finally our time to emerge cautiously yet confidently, our time to emerge strong and more diversified, our time to emerge together and with a shared vision. The economy will only fully recover when the vaccinations are widespread, and I'm optimistic this will be soon. But there is a real concern there will be a K-shaped recovery, where some people will do well, but many may not. COVID has no doubt worsened the economic, health, and social challenges that existed pre-pandemic for many Calgarians. Frankly, we can't afford to leave anybody behind in this recovery. We must pay particular attention to equity, diversity, and inclusion to ensure that the vulnerable populations greatly affected during this time are also benefit from our future growth. From a vibrant downtown to a future-ready economy, to a city that places great value on creating shared prosperity, our successes will come from working together. So let me close today's report to the community by acknowledging a few more people who have showed great commitment to working together this last year. First, our Team Calgary corporate partners who continue to invest in the work we do, understanding that we are driving towards a better Calgary for the future.
Thank you, Mary. Amazing. Absolutely correct. This is our time. Now, let me please ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to put your hands together for our worship, our mayor, Naheed Nenshi.
We have shown once again that there's nowhere we'd rather be than here. Now, last year, yet again, we were named the very best city in the entire Western Hemisphere in which to live, the 5th best in the world. And that's not by accident. That doesn't just happen. Our economic development strategy here in Calgary is starting to bear very significant fruit. Mary, I always forget what that strategy is called. What was it again? Calgary in the new economy. I get an In-N-Out burger every time I say it in a speech. So I want to remind you of what I said at the end of my very first speech at Report to Community. And what I said was, we have built something incredibly special here. We built something that is based on a very, very simple promise. And that promise is just this: regardless of what you look like or where you come from, regardless of how you worship or whom you love, regardless of how much money you have or what has happened to you and your family in your life, regardless of those things, there's one thing we know, and that is we're happy you're here, that you belong here, that you deserve to be here, that you deserve a society of refuge and safety and prosperity and opportunity and, above all, dignity. That every single person lucky enough to share this land, whether your family's been here for thousands of generations or whether you arrived last week from a refugee camp, every single person lucky enough to share this land has the opportunity right here, right now, to live a great Canadian life. It has been the honor of my lifetime to be able to go to work every single day and try and build on that promise and make that promise real. And I am going to continue to do that, and I hope that every one of you will continue to build this the greatest place on earth. Thank you all.
Wow. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for those words. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your service to this community. Speaking of community, we have 2 amazing panels coming up, folks. We have Ken Lima Coelho, who is going to run a panel that's going to have a really important conversation per the mayor's point. We're going to talk about COVID, our response, but more importantly, we're talking about our community as well and what it means to our community. So we also have a great other conversation about climate and capital that's led by Rona Del Ferrari. We're going to talk about climate and capital, how that means, and what does it mean to change our energy, and what does that look like in the future for us. Can't wait to hear what's happening and what happened in our panels.
You know what I kept hearing, and I started writing notes, and the word that kept coming up over and over again was the importance of collaboration. And so we can achieve these solutions for climate. We need that influx of capital, but they kept talking about how we can work with each other, we can work with multiple levels of government, most importantly, but that's how we're going to get to the end goal of really tackling these climate challenges, especially for the energy industry.
But we talked a lot about coming together. There's that collaboration piece, but coming together, the spirit of volunteerism and giving in this city is still very much alive. John Cornish talked about it through the Black Chambers and the groups that he's working with to lift up certain voices. I'll talk about that in a minute. The spirit of philanthropy and giving our best selves, whether it's dollars or it's time, or it's just saying hi and checking in on that grocery store worker or that frontline worker, because boy, have they been through it. And then the last piece I would say is really talking about that spirit of hope and that spirit of zeroing in on those voices. Mayor Nenshi mentioned this too, zeroing in on those voices that might not be heard. Just because it's feeling okay in your suburban neighborhood doesn't mean that we're healing as a community. We have to look for those voices that might not be heard, those frontline workers, people of color, Indigenous people. We have to hear their voices and we have to lift them up, because that means we avoid that K-shaped recovery that you're worried about, Mary. And that means it's a recovery for all of us, for all of Calgarians. Sue doesn't just serve some Calgarians. She's emergency management for all of us. We're still in emergency, and we need to emerge out of that with all the voices heard and respected.
In talking to many cities, particularly in North America, that have rebuilt their economy, and they always talk about the 3 T's of rebuilding their economy. First of all, one is taxes, so we've got that kind of nailed with our low corporate tax. The other is talent, which is really important, but the other is tolerance. And this city has been and has become a very welcoming community, and we need to continue to work on it. And I think it's really important to acknowledge the fact that equity, diversity, inclusion is a journey. It's not a destination, and we have to be listening all the time.
This conversation can go on for hours. I mean, this is such an amazing group of people. And I can't thank Rona and Ken enough for being part of this. Mary, as always, an awesome, awesome day. We have one more speaker to close out the day with today, and it's one of our really, really great Team Calgary partners, our friends at TELUS. And please welcome Naveen Arora, the president of TELUS Business Solutions.
We've stood with Alberta's citizens and communities for over a century, and we're committed to making these critical investments because we believe in Calgary and our ability to bounce back. In fact, we feel it's our social obligation to ensure we do all that we can to enable that return. For all the challenges created by the pandemic, I think one of the most important lessons we learned is how quickly and successfully we can make things happen for the betterment of society when we work together. With a strong recovery plan and strategy in place, it's now on all of us to work together across government, industry, business, and community to create a prosperous future for Calgary. Thank you.
Thank you, Naveen. That was amazing. And again, thank you to our Team Calgary partners without whose help we just couldn't do what we do. And by the way, if you're not a Team Calgary partner yet but want to be one, just call me. I'm around. We do have the winner of the silent auction, and I'm happy to say with a bid of $1,750, Allison Jackson is the winner of the one-of-a-kind Mandy Stobo painting. And again, I want to thank all of our partners. I want to thank the staff, the crew, everybody who's had a chance to put this together for us today. Everyone's been amazing. I want to say thank you to everybody for taking part in this. Thank you for coming by. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking part and having the great conversations that we need. And before we leave, I just want to say one thing. I'm Brad. You're awesome. Thank you and have a great rest of the day.